Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Rossler's main access control panels session. My name is Giora. I'm a pre-sales engineer at Rossler Security Products, and thank you for joining us on this presentation. I will present to you today in this session the Rossler's main access control panels and their expansion modules. In this session, we are going to talk about Rossler's core panels. We have four main access controllers at Rossler, four main panels. We have the AC215, the AC225, the AC425, and the last and not least, the AC825. At first, this session, we will focus on our three legacy panels, which are the 215, the 225, and the 425. And then we will set another session, especially about our new big panel, the AC825, which is our flagship controller, a workhorse panel that is fully expandable. So first, I will run you through our three legacy panels. So here we can see the pictures of our legacy core panels, the 215, the 225, and the 425. They all have similar spec. And in the upcoming slides, I will drill down a little bit more specifically on each individual controller. If you haven't seen yet our B series controllers, this is how the new B series controllers look like. We've got the illumination bar, and this is what you can see up here across the top. It's got a tamper switch built in. If you open up the door, there is a little LED light that lights out. The illumination bar is actually on a cable. So you can remove it and use it like a stick, like a wand, a flashlight wand to be able to see what all is going in the cabinet. You can also see here three holes. Now, these holes are with plastic plugs to cover it. So you can strap down your wires. You've got a lot of wire management option there. This way, your network interface is a lot easier to get to, and that also gives a nice and clean look. You've also got a carriage here for holding up to 7 amp on 12 volt. Customer can install a standard 7 milliamp hour battery that will allow panel continuous operation for about 4 hours in the case of a power failure. And there is also here the onboard power supply, the 4 amp power supply. 2 amps are segmented to power your locks. That means 2 amps are available to power the door locks, and you have 2 amp left to power your controller and readers. And that is for the 215, the 225, and the 425. All our controllers come in the enclosure, but you have the DIN option as well. So you can order just the board alone and mount it by itself on the DIN. Keeping in mind on that all the panels also have a wiring diagram right on the inside of the cabinet door. So it makes it very nice and easy for wiring. And remember, you have that light of the illumination bar, the flashlight wand that is built in. So even if you're in a dark IT closet, it is very easy to read the wiring diagram on the door. And now in the upcoming slides, I will drill down a little bit more specifically on each individual controller. The basic one, the entry-level intelligent IP controller, is the AC215. It is a two-door out-of-the-box panel. Key item with the 215 is that it is not expandable. You can't add an expansion module on it to increase it, so keep that in mind. The 215 has a capability of 30,000 users, unlimited access groups, and up to 20,000 events. But once again, maximum readers are 2. If you are looking to upsell a customer, you're going to have a difficulty with the 215. Of course, it's always better to be in a position that you can upgrade the panels to add additional doors. Suppose you do an installation and then the customer says, you know what? We didn't even think about that store or that site, so let's add another door to the panel as well. They don't really see the oscilloscope in the beginning until we are installing it, and then they want to add stuff to it. On the other hand, although the 215 is a two-door non-expandable controller, it can be an IP panel. It can be networkable. You can have multiple 215 on a network. In fact, there are some folks who do that. They just like to use the 215 as an edge controller and just control two doors at that area, and then add multiple 215 throughout the facility. We are completely fine with that, but you can put in an expansion model inside the enclosure to expand it. So what you have to do is just add another 215 throughout the facility. The 215 got up to two readers, two door outputs, two auxiliary outputs, two Rex inputs, and two auxiliary or door sensor inputs. And like all of our controllers, the power supply is included. The next panel app is probably our most popular panel and is a number one seller out of our legacy panels. It is the AC225 IP control panel. This is a great panel. It is still two doors out of the box, but you can simply add a daughterboard, an expansion board to it called the MDD02 that will take the 225 up to four doors. We will talk about the MDD02 expansion board in our next slide. The 225 is very similar to the 215 as far as looking at it aesthetically. The main difference, as we said, is that you have the ability to install an expansion model to it, and it is right here. So again, keeping with that clean installation, you don't have to mount it separately off to the side like a place here. You remove this little sticker, this little decal, and it mounts directly on top of the motherboard there for a nice and clean installation. And then it will take your two-door controller up to a four-door controller. And also here, 30,000 max number of users, unlimited access groups, and 30,000 events. And you can take it up to four doors versus to two doors. And of course, it is also can be an IP panel. It can be networkable. This is actually our number one selling legacy controller because it is expandable and it is very cost effective. The MDD02 is the expansion model for the 225 controller, and you can see how it looks aesthetically and blends right in. We saw in the former slide how it mounts directly right there. You just remove the decal on and the MDD02 mounts directly on the panel and blends right in. Note that not that the customer is going to be looking at it, but you want to live with a nice, clean look, and it provides that. The next panel is a big seller as well. It is the AC425 access controller. That is a four-door out-of-the-box controller, similar to the former two panels as far as users and events, with the exception of that it will do up to four readers out of the box. The nice thing about this is that you can indeed take it up to 8 doors by simply installing an MDD04 on the motherboard and take it to 8 doors. The 425 panel got 30,000 users, 20,000 events, 4 readers out of the box expandable to 8 readers, 4 doors or auxiliary outputs, 4 Rex or door monitor inputs, and up to 2 amp at 13.8 volts DC available to power your locks. One of the things I do want to touch about and emphasize on all our panels is that we have onboard lock power. We can do up to 2 amp of lock power out of any one of our cabinets. So that is a very nice advantage. For example, 1200 pound maglock at peak is drawing out half amp. So to do a strike or to do a 1200 pound maglock right out of the panel itself saves you on cost, on your upfront equipment cost, and allows you to be more competitive in your bids. The MDD04 is the expansion board for the 4 to 5 to give an extra 4 readers to go up to 8 readers. And again, it mounts directly on the panel. You remove that decal and mount it directly on top of the controller. It gives up to 4 readers, 4 doors or auxiliary outputs, 4x or door monitor inputs. And besides the MDDO4, there is also an expandable input and outputs module as well. And I'm going to show you that in the next slide. And here we have an input and output expansion module, the MD-IO84, that fits both the 225 and the 425 panels. So if you need additional inputs or outputs, you can use this. You can either use the MDDO4 or the MD-IO84, either or. You can't use them both at the same time. There is only room for one expansion module on the access control panel. It gives 4 auxiliary or door outputs, 8 racks or door monitor or auxiliary inputs. Okay, so now we've got on here engineering spec. So this is what the engineers tell us. And we've also got some real life examples that we can tell you about as well. The maximum capacity on the Axox NG system is 1,023 controllers, or better say 1023 controllers. And with the legacy panels, meaning the 215, the 225, and the 425, you can have up to 32 controllers theoretically on the daisy chain on an RS485 bus. So of each IP address given to the first panel in the daisy chain, you can theoretically have 32 panels. We always recommend keeping them down to 6 or 8 total max on a single RS485 per daisy chain for smoother operation, especially if you're doing updates and updates are needed and things of that nature. You can still have your 1,000 controllers. It is just that you will need a few more IP addresses to spread them across. And it doesn't necessarily need it to be public IP addresses. It can also be private ones. Typically, what we find these days is most people will put in an IP panel everywhere. And if they need to expand right there and can't do it in the panel itself with an expansion board, they will daisy chain panels, 2 or 3 of them, and that makes for just a smoother operation in general. And it is transparent to the end user. So if we have 1,000 panels at different IP addresses versus a bunch of them on the daisy chain, all that is transparent to the user. Once it is configured, it is just actually one large system. Also, regarding the length of the bus on the RS485, we don't recommend going over 3,000 feet total from start to finish on each bus. It's about 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters. And if you are doing that, just make sure you are using the right cabling and it is wired correctly. And definitely not to forget to put termination resistors in. Okay, that's it. Thank you for being with us. Here is my contact information, my email, and my cell phone. If there's any question on what we have covered so far, you are more than welcome to contact me by mail or by phone. So see you then in our next session about the AC825 panel. And I wish you a great day. Bye.